Hey YouTube, this is Don, the drummer from the band YYZeppelin. It's a Zeppelin Rush tribute band based in Vermont. And what I'm going to do is show you how we use an in-ear monitor system for our band when we play live on stage using a Presonus ecosystem. And that's going to include the Studio Live 24R. It's a digital rack system. Combining that with a Stagebox from Presonus, the NSB 8.8, as well as a seismic audio splitter box that we use to send the signal to the front of house. And what we're using for our in-ear monitor system is the Presonus earmix 16M, and we have two of these that we use, one for the bassist and the keyboardist, and the other one for myself as well as the singer and guitarist, and I have that mounted on my drum kit here. So I'll go through all of that, how we have it hooked up, and what we're gonna use it for as far as our live performance and how we control it all from an iPad. Stay tuned. Okay, let's start with what we have here. So I mentioned this briefly, that we have the Presonus Studio Live 24R. That's the digital rack system. I can control it with a iPad. Then we have the Stagebox, which I have hooked up as sort of like an extension to the 24R, because we have 32 channels, and since the Studio Live 24R only has 24, I'm using the channels on the Stagebox, the inputs, as 25 through 32, and then I'm using the mix outs on the bottom here. I have 4 of them. One is for our sub. You'll see here QSC sub. That's this sub over here. It's an 18-inch. And then I have room to grow. If I want, I can put other monitors or whatever I want in mix 2, 3, or 4. And then mix 5 and 6 I basically use for our remote sessions. That's jack. We use Jack Trip, and I'll do another video on that, but it works really well. And then I use mix 7 and 8 for the IK Multimedia iRig, where we can record our sessions direct from the soundboard. Alright, so basically these mixes 1 through 8 don't have anything to do with our in-ear monitors, but what it basically does is it takes the mix outs from the back of the Presonus and puts them in the front here. So I have that all digitally patched so that you have the mix outs from the back of the Presonus coming out of the front to make it easier for hookup when you're live. Alright, so we have 32 channels, just to summarize, and then what we do is we put all of our mic inputs in this seismic audio splitter box, and we run from the back of the splitter box here, from the left side, into our 24R as well as the Stagebox using channels 25 through 32. And then we would use this side. This is a 10-foot snake here that has 32 channels out to the front of house, and we'll label these accordingly. We don't use all of the 32 channels. I left some room for growth again. You know, maybe some guest singers or guest guitarists, etc. So that's our setup right there, and I'll go through the AVB patching as well, just so that you see how it's done. I'm not sure if there's any live performers out there that have gone through this extent that I'm going to go through, but I'm going to try and do it. Now all of that in the bottom here kind of hard to see. It's the Presonus SW5E, and that's the switch that connects from the 24R, the rack, out to the ear mixes right here. So it's through AVB, what Presonus calls AVB. I have them marked. So I have one going to the ear mix behind my drum set, and then I have that chained to this one that's in front of the bassist. So basically I have the one behind my drum set right there. I have it coming from the switch into there, and then I use the through connection right there, and I run it to the AVB in of this one, which is right near the bassist, and he can control 16 channels right here. You see how we have the mixes set up for the bassist. It's a little bit different for mine, but basically we use the Presonus 24R has a total of 16 mixes that you can develop. Again, the 1 through 8 are in front of the Stagebox, and then we use 9 through 16 mixes, and that would be 8 mixes, but this right here, it's channels 1 through 8. So channels, the mixes 9 through 16 are actually channels 1 through 8 on this ear mix right here, and that's all done through patching, which I will show. And then these channels right here, 9 through 16, they're actually mapped directly to the channel of the Presonus 24R. So it's not matched to any mix, it's matched directly to the channel. So you could have some bass right here, which is, you know, I have a mix right here, bass Toro, channel 1 if you look at. And the Toro is nothing more than a mini Moog that Geddy Lee used to use. I'll show you what that is right here. So we have that. We have the bass guitar, as well as this little Behringer mini Moog clone, actually. And we have that controlled with the Behringer FCB 1010 MIDI foot controller. And that's a whole nother, it's called the Toro. That's a whole nother video on how to hook this thing up. It was not easy. This is not an intuitive pedal. But once you get it, it's not that bad once you figure it out. Anyway, so we have the bass and the Toro in a mix. Then you see the second one, channel 2. That's the second mix. We have the keys, and then we have the keyboard player plays harmonica, and then we have a theremin right here. Of course, you got to have a theremin with a Led Zeppelin tribute. If you don't, you're not legit. So this is our theremin right here. This antenna pulls up. So I have all 3 of those in another mix. I have the lead vocals in its own mix. Then I have guitar and what I call iPad music. I can run, you know, Spotify for rehearsals to play along with the track if we need to. Then I have kick, channel 5, kick, snare, hi-hat, overhead together. And then channel 6 is my DW concert toms. That's these right here. As well as 10, 12, 14 inch that are on the rack right there. And then the floor toms, which are the 16 and 18 inch floors that you see right there. So those are all of the mixes, and I have these in both ear mixes, maybe in different orders, different channels, but basically you can control each channel separately. So let's say, you know, you want a little bit more keys, harp, and theremin. You would hit channel 2, and then you can hit your volume knob right here, and this will go up or down. You'll see right here, up, down. And then within each of these mixes, through my iPad, I can control each of these levels a little bit more. So if they say, well, this mix is not giving me enough keys no matter how high I hit it, I can go in the mix and then up the volume of the keys, and then they can adjust accordingly from here, where they'll have more keys in that mix right here, and I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so back to the channels. Channel 7 is another mix. That's my cowbell ride cymbal, and for those of you who don't know what the Malacat is, that is this right here. That's what Neil Peart uses for the bells in Spirit of the Radio and Closer to the Heart, among other things. Okay, this is the ear mix that's right next to me at the drum set. And you can see I have these in a little bit different order. Channel 1 is the kick, snare, hi-hat, overhead mix. 2, DW, etc., cowbell, and channel 3, and lead vocals, and then guitar, iPad music, channel 5, bass Turo, channel 6, keys, harp, theremin, channel 7, and then background vocal and guest vocals in channel 8. I didn't go through that one and the other one, but they're, again, these 8 mixes are the same for both ear mixes. They're just in different order. And then I have a little bit more drum-centric direct channel maps. The kick, snare, hi-hat, and ride. Overhead, Malacat. And then I have guitar, basses separate as well. Now these last 9 channels on both, last 8 channels on both of the ear mixes will only work if we are running our own sound. So you could have, like, maybe it's not loud enough for you, the kick, right? And you can go over, not only have this mix right here, but you could add a little bit, and this is dependent. Channels 9 through 16 on both ear mixes are dependent on the level you have your channels in the mains. So if your channels in the mains are low, you're not going to have very much control over these. So if the channels are high, obviously you'll have more control of 9 through 16. But for in-ear monitors, which is what we're concentrating on, you'll see I have these channels are muted. So channel 10, you see the mute right there. Channel 9, channel 10, all the way through 16 are muted. So we're not going to use those channels if we have a sound man running front of house. All right, next will be the iPad controller. I'll show you how that works. All right, so basically this is our board right here through the 24R, and you'll see, I'll get in closer, you'll see the channels, kick, snare, hi-hat, ride, etc. And then I set them up like stage right guitar, you see right under my finger there, stage left bass, stage right vocals, center vocals is the lead, stage left vocals, my own vocals, and then we have stage left keys and harp. They're both on the same channel actually, plugs his harp into the keyboard. Stage right Turo, the guitarist uses the Turo as well as the theremin. This is our music, Spotify. I also play a little intro in the beginning before we go on stage. And we have, if I have time, which I usually don't, set up a stage right room mic and stage left room mic so I could record directly from the board. And then these are guest microphones right here, stage right and left. And then we have some various open ones throughout that you see in beige. and that's just like room for growth. So I don't use all 32 channels. Like I said, I use quite a bit. I'd say probably 24 or 25, I think. I forget. And this right here, this is UC Control, right? So this is a software through that Presonus puts out. It's free, and you just download it onto your iPad, and you can control this. Set your Presonus up with a router that you see right there. Make sure you have a good router, because if you don't, then you can't go in front of the stage very far to adjust your levels. And I'm not going to show you how to hook up a router, but it's very easy doing it inside UC Control. So these are our main levels right here, okay? If you want to go to your individual mixes, all right, so if you see right here, I'm going to click QC sub. All right, so this comes out, like I said, in front of the Stagebox, and that's actually mix 1. So I can control my sub from here. So basically, what I'm running through the sub is my floor toms, my 14-inch tom, bass guitar, obviously, kick, a little bit of snare, some kick. Let's see what else. Toro, and I think that's it. And bass guitar, I think I mentioned that. Mix 2 is nothing right now. I can run another monitor if I need to right out of the Stagebox. Same with 3 and 4. Like I said, I use mix 4 and 5 is jack trip. That's the JT left and JT right. And that's for remote rehearsal, which basically I set up jack trip through my MacBook right here. You can just download the software, connect it to a audio interface. I happen to use a universal UAD Apollo Solo for this. And the reason why I use that is because I have a Apollo X16, which I can hook them both together if I want to do some recording and mixing. So that's why I use UAD, but you can use any. Presonus actually has a really good one that has very little lag. But we're not. That's again another video. We're not going to go through that. I'm just showing you what I have hooked up here. All right, back to here. You see 9 through 16. So after you get through iRig, and again, that's a recording device for IK Multimedia, which I put directly from the, I have them mapped to the left and right mains, and it comes right out, and you can take a video, and you can do a whole bunch of different mixing with that really quick, and put it up as kind of like a rehearsal practice session. So you see that's iRig right is mix 8. So I didn't want to waste any of the channels in the Stagebox or any of the mix outs in the Stagebox. I wanted to, use the mix 9 through 16, which are done virtually through the digital patching. And that's what I use to input into the ear mixes. All right, so mixes 9. So let's see, we'll just take one as an example. I'll do kick. So you have your overall mix, and you see how they turn yellow right there? That indicates that you're in a mix, right? So I have kick, snare, hi-hat, you see ride. Now I have obviously the rest of them muted so you don't get any kind of bleed through of anything. And I have them all the way down as well. So that's all of your mixes. So 9 through 16 again. are any kind of, they're in a different channel location for each ear mix, and each of that's all set up in your digital patching, and I'm going to show you that right now before I go into it in depth. So you click on a little gear icon and you have your network, actually not your network, digital patching, and then you want to go to AVB sends. Now this is where you set up each of your ear mixes. So you got to map the channels to an AVB channel, your mixer channel to an AVB channel. So here's what you do here. If you see, we have Don, Andy, Noah ear mix. That's me, drummer, Andy, guitarist, Noah, singer on one ear mix. That's the one I control. And then the second one is Adon and Mike, and that is the bass player, or actually the keyboardist and bass player respectively, and that's on a separate ear mix. So you see separate ear mix right there. And just to show you, when you map different ear mixes, you got to map them to different sends and different sends for 1 through 6 and 9 through 16. Okay, so I mapped my ear mix next to my drums. 1 through 8 source is AVB send 1 through 8. 9 through 16 is AVB send 9 through 16. So basically, channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is AVB send 1 through 8 on here. And then channels 9 through 16, AVB send 9 through 16. Okay? And then on the next one, on the bass guitarist and the keyboardist, I have maps 1 through 8 source, AVB sends 17 through 24, 9 through 16, 25 through 32. So basically, if you think about this, this is kind of what threw me for the longest time, and I don't know why. It seems easy once you get it, but it's really not, and it takes a little bit of thinking about this. So think about AVB send 17 basically equals channel 1 of this particular ear mix. All right, so you have AVB send 17 through 32, that's a total of 16 channels. AVB send 17 is going to equal channel 1 of that ear mix over there. Okay? And likewise, AVB 32 is going to equal channel 16 of that ear mix over there. All right? Whereas on mine, AVB send 1 is going to equal channel 1 on my ear mix, and AVB 16 is going to equal channel 16. Once you kind of understand that, it's going to be easy to map whatever you want to map to each channel of this ear mix. Okay. Next is like going into the meat of it, where we will show you the mapping of each ear mix. Let me show you briefly how to set up a mix in UC controls. So basically, I want mix 9. You can click up here and you can click on it and change the name to whatever you want. Mix 9 right there. So you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, mix 9 highlighted in blue. And your mix channel is all the way on the right. That's the master volume for the mix channel, and in this channel I have background vocals as well as guest vocals. So you see SR Vox, that's stage right, that's the guitarist. Stage left is the bass player, and me, the drum Vox. They're all up and unmuted. I have everything else muted. And then I'll show you, I also have the guest vocals up on this, and they're unmuted. There's nothing hooked up to them right now, so you're not going to get any kind of bleed. But I just keep them unmuted and up. And then what you can do is, like, if you ever want to change these, this is what I was talking about, changing the individual mixes. So let's say on my mix right here, my ear mix, my channel 8 is background and guest vocals. Let's say the drum vocals just isn't, I just can't hear them, right? No matter what volume setting I set here, which is this, if I put it all the way up, you know, I'm probably going to get too much of the other guys in my mix for background. So what I could do is just up it in here, up the drum Vox in here. And then what I like to do, I always like to make a practice of saving. So I'll show you how to do that. So you hit this second, it looks like files, right? Right below the gear icon. You hit that, and then this is my project in-ear mix setup. And then I put Johnson because that's where I'm from in Vermont. And you hit store. And then you see the scene. I'm storing it in the Johnson project. So basically, the difference between project and scenes are as follows. So if you create a new project, you'll be able to change the digital patching in the system. The scenes are the various levels of each system. So let's say I want totally different digital patching in a totally different system. I would create a new project. That's the only way you could change your digital patching. Even if I create a new scene on the right, I would still have the same patching that I do in the Johnson scene. You can't change it. If I want to change it, I have to do a totally different project. Okay, hopefully that's clear. All right, so we've established the mixes 9 through 16. You see where they're at. So mix 9, background guest. Mix 10 is lead vocals, and I have that separate because I want to be able to clearly hear the lead, and I want everybody to hear the lead vocals, so I think that's important. Guitar and music, that's the iPad music along with guitar. Bass and Turo, that's the synthesizer foot pedal that the guitarist uses, as well as the bass guitar. And then I have keys, harp, and theremin in 9, 10, 11, 12. Kick, high snare, kick, snare, hi-hat, overhead in channel in mix 14. And then the DW concert toms, as well as the 10, 12-inch, 14-inch, and floor toms in one mix. And then the cowbell, ride, and malacat right here in mix 16. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Those are the mixes, okay? So now, when you go into patching, digital, you want to go to digital patching. You want to hit the gear icon, digital patching, and you want to be in AVB sends. Across the top, you'll see your mixer channels. And then if you scroll across, you'll start to see these are your different mixes, right? So you got to remember what your mixes are. And I put together like a Google Sheets thing with all of the different mixes, as well as the different channels and how they map to each AVB setting. All right, so remember I said AVB 1 for the earmix next to me. Remember, I had that as source 1 through 8 and 9 through 16 in your network settings when I went through that, how to set up the earmixes. AVB 1 through 16 is going to be channels 1 through 16. Okay? So channel 1 on this one is the kick, snare, hi-hat, overhead. And you remember that the kick, snare, hi-hat, overhead is mix 14. So I have channel AVB1 equal to mix 14. AVB2, I have that to the DW as well as the 10, 12, 14, and floor tom. That is actually mix 15 that I showed you, okay? So AVB2 is mix 15. And then you go down the line, so on and so forth. AVB3 is mix 16. And if you remember, mix 16 is the cowbell ride Malacat. So AVB3 equals channel 3 here. And that is the cowbell ride Malacat mix, all right? So you go through, you know, you have 4 through 8. You know, you'll see them right here. So AVB4 is mix 10. You see how it's lined up right there? And then so forth, so on, all the way down to mix 13. So AVB4 is the lead vocals. And that's going to be, the lead vocals is actually mix 10 that you saw. All right, and then AVB5, it's guitar, iPad music, then 6, 7, keys, bass Toro, keys, harp, theremin. They are also mixes, as well as 8, so AVB8 is going to be mix 9, which is the background vocal and the guest vocals. Okay, that's mix 9. And just to show you, remember this, AVB8 is mix 9, background, guest vocals. If you go back to your mixer, you'll see AVB9, or actually mix 9 is background, guest vocals. Okay, this is 1 through 8. 8 ending at iRig right. 9 is background guest vocals. And you'll see that AVB8 is going to be mix 9. Okay, and you see it right there. All right, those are the easy ones. And the other ones are actually pretty easy. So you go through and you go through all the way up through AVB16, and you see how some of them are directly linked to, so 10 through 16 are directly linked to various channels, and you'll see how they are right here. So 9 through 16 are actually directly patched to each channel that you see right there. All right, and these will only be affected if we're running our own sound, because it's dependent on the main levels of each channel. So it could be loud, it could be not loud, but you can get a little kick, a little extra kick if you want. If you're not seeing the kick snare, if you're not hearing the kick loud enough in your ears, you can enable this one, make sure that's on, and then you can unmute channel 9. You'll see again I have channel 9 muted. Anywhere from 1 through 8 is not muted because that's our mixes, right? And want to keep those. This is going to be our main controls during a live performance where we're not running our own sound. And if we're not running our own sound, we're not going to have any control over these channels. If we're running our own sound, we'll have control of these channels on this box. And in that way, you can add a little extra kick even if you have this enabled. All right, so it's directly related to the main levels of each channel, 9 through 16. All right, so that is earmix 1. Okay, that's the one where it's myself, the singer, and the guitarist on one mix. So earmix 2, again, conceptually, at least for me, it was a little harder to understand. But once you get it, you get it. So just think about this. AVB 17 through 24, that was the sources in the network. And I'll show you the network again. And this is the bass guitar and keyboardist earmix. You see source 1 through 8, that would be channels 1 through 8 is going to be AVB sends 17 through 24, and channels 9 through 16 are going to be AVB sends 25 through 32. So just think of AVB 17 on the other earmix. Right here, AVB 17, that's going to be channel 1 in that earmix right there. AVB 18 is going to be channel 2, and so forth. That's all going to go up through AVB 32. Okay, so AVB 17 through 32 are channels 1 through 16 of this earmix right there. All right, so basically you can start mapping them out. And again, all the mixes are the same for each earmix. I just might have them in different order, which I do have them in different order. I don't might, I actually do. So if you go up, basically the ones that we're going to control for our in-ears are AVB 17 through 24. And if you see, AVB 17 is equal to mix 12, and mix 12 you can see over here is going to, okay, so that's 9, lead vox is 10, guitar music is 11, bass toro is 12. So AVB 17 is mix 12. And you just got to click on that to get that black box, you know. And then you just go down again all through your various mixes and you'll see the orders, right? Channel 2 of the earmix, AVB 18, is going to be mix 13. And then you see all of they're all going to be mixes. Channels 1 through 8 on the earmix are going to be all mixes. So with channel 8 being AVB 24, that's going to be mix 9, which is your background vocals as well as your guest vocals. Okay, so you see how they basically map right there. And then likewise, 9 through 16, or actually, yeah, 9 through 16 are, that's going to be AVB 25. They're going to all be mapped to channels, just like earmix, the first earmix I showed you. And they are not going to be available to use unless we run our own sound through our own mains. So that's basically how we're going to use the AVB system with the earmix. And the good thing about the earmix is that right now we don't have a wireless in-ear monitor system. We have a wired system. I just have basically these are plugged directly, these right here are plugged directly into this headphone amplifier. And I have right here, I'm going to show you on the other side. the way the ear mix is hooked up. So line out left and right. Line out left and right are going to line in left and right of the headphone amplifier, okay? So this way I can control sound, I control volume from here, headphone amplifier, as well as individual channels. I'll show you a little bit about this. Individual channels on the ear mix. So you just got to click your channel and you see you have bass settings, treble, you have limiter, you have mid frequency, and then of mid levels. You can pan, and you'll see as I change, these values change. So they're individually controllable for each channel. All right, so channel 3, you see that's a little bit different than 2, right? So you could change everything on these ear mixes. Now, just to let you know, you can do infinite amount of ear mixes, and you just have to map them. They'll have to share the same mix on some after you run out of AVB channels. And I think I have, like, I don't know. Let's see how many channels we have. So there's 64 AVB channels. So I can have, if I didn't use the Stagebox, so the Stagebox is using a set of AVB channels, set of 16, I could do 3 individual ear mixes with different settings, different channel orders on each. So you take 64 divided by 16, that's 4, but I'm using one of them, one of the 16, for the Stagebox, okay? And the Stagebox is set up as follows. So I'll show you that networking. Go back to network. Stagebox. You see right there, NSB 8.8. I'm using, so the outputs 1 through 8 are send 41 through 48. And the inputs, and just think of this, 25 through 32. So that's channels 25 through 32. So I'm extending, basically extending the Stagebox, extending the number of channels I have available in the Stagebox. Like, so I'm using channels 25, 32. That Stagebox has 8 channels. So channels 25 through 32 are on the Stagebox. So basically, I'm using a set of AVB outputs for the Stagebox. So while if you don't have a Stagebox, you can use four ear mixes. But since I have a Stagebox, I can only use 3 that have separate channel orders. But I can use, let's say, you know, somebody else wants to share this, the Don Noah Andy ear mix. I would have to map it to AVB sends 1 through 8 and 9 through 16. Then, you know, they'll have a different ear mix, maybe in a different location. Maybe the keyboardist wants to get his own ear mix. He could share this ear mix with me, and the same channel order. So his channels will be the same as my channels. But the good thing about it is that his volume levels can be different than mine for ear mixes. So that's a good thing. So when I basically go wireless in-ear monitors or in-ear wireless in-ear headphones, and I'm looking at the Shure's the 300, I think it's PSM 300 or something like that. You can still have the same control of the 16 channels by just going out from this ear mix into the IEM transmitter. So I can go out from here into the shore and then use the receiver on my belt buckle, and I can have this particular mix in my wireless in-ears. For right now though, I'm using wired because the wireless ear mix that I'm looking at, if you want to have 3 receivers, probably be around $2,000. So we're going wired for right now. None of us jump around all over the stage anyway, so it's good for now, but eventually we will go with wireless in-ears. So I think that's it. If you have any questions, I know there's a lot here. You can just send a comment, like, subscribe. You can follow us, YYZeppelin, on Facebook. You can book us right there, or you can contact us through WhatsApp or through message on Facebook. But I really appreciate your time. Hopefully this was helpful and gives you a little bit more control if you own some Presonus ear mixes and going through the Presonus ecosystem. Take care, everybody.